New Year's, everybody. Actually, I did not have a chance to tell Elizabeth this before we started, but Elizabeth, you are our first interview for 2023.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And I am feel very privileged and honored tonight to speak with Elizabeth Yoo. Uh, I'm saying tonight, we're recording and the night, although this drops, you can listen to it anytime, obviously. Elizabeth is an illustrator. She creates key art for movie posters and Blu-ray covers. And I got to know her through Severin. Elizabeth, I do want to hold off on the title for just a second to keep
Yeah.
people in suspense.
Mhm.
But before we do that, thank you so much for jumping in and recording this conversation with us.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for having me on. I think am I the first illustrator to be on the podcast?
You know, it's funny how life works. So when I first reached out to you, yes. And through a weird series of
Uh-huh.
circumstances and total coincidence, we just randomly connected with someone named Zishu, um,
Okay.
who's a different illustrator, has done some work with Era 4444. And so by a weird, it's really rare, I think, that we would have two conversations with illustrators. It's an area that I'm personally interested in, but I don't hear these interviews as often.
Yeah.
But you are a second one just due to scheduling.
Oh,
But
that's
first,
cool.
first by
I
outreach.
look forward to listening to the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you have some similarities in the way your career has gone, which I want to get into
Mhm.
shortly, actually, because I'm very fascinated by how you keep the lights on and kind of the various jobs and things you have to do. Your website has some amazing work on it. But before we get into all of that, I just, I guess I will spoil it. One of my favorite covers, was it 2021 when the Severin title dropped?
So I did two different things for Severin. So I think
Okay.
the one you're probably thinking of is it Blood for Dracula?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was 2021.
That was 21, right? Okay, yeah. And when that dropped, I was stunned by how like beautiful that cover was.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's so simple, and I don't know exactly why, but it just like really captured the like the artistic kind of side of the movie, and I think it's really great. So well done. How did you get connected with them, and kind of how did you get plugged in with with them, and I have a million questions about that, but I think there's a lot in there that can kind of lead into your career
Mhm.
and lead to some other interesting discussions. So, how did that start with Severin for you?
Um, so it's funny because so when I was like I guess I'll just go back many years back.
Well, let's do it. Yeah, all the way back.
So when I was like in college,
Uh-huh.
I was like an English major, and then I also became a cinema major, and I had absolutely no idea what I was gonna do. I thought, like, in my dream, world, I thought, oh, I'll become a writer one day. I wanted to become like a hard-boiled detective fiction writer. And so I would,
Ah,
like, just read a lot and collect pulp paperbacks, and I was always drawn to the covers, and I was always drawn to movie posters as well. But so I was, just kind of aimless for a while. I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated. And then, like, I didn't even draw. There was a decade where I didn't even pick up a pencil or paintbrush. I mean, it's crazy to think about that because now that's what I do for a living.
yeah.
But it was because my focus was kind of elsewhere. And
Hmm.
then what happened was, I don't know what started it. I don't know what the catalyst was, but one day I just picked up a pen again, or pencil, and I just
Uh-huh.
started. I would watch movies and I would be like so inspired, and I would create paintings and I would post it to social media. And so this is maybe trying to maybe like 7 years ago. And yeah, so like at the time I had absolutely no idea what was in store for me in the future. And then it was sort of hard for me to meet other people who liked the same weird obscure movies I liked.
Uh-huh.
But then I discovered on Facebook there seemed to be like a really big film community. So, I would just join certain groups, certain film groups, and one thing kind of led to another, and you get friend requests, and I just sort of became Facebook friends with people within the film community. And so I didn't have any connections whatsoever, but I was just a big fan of movies,
Uh-huh.
and I really loved Severin. And I think what happened was, I became connected with David Gregory, the president of Severin, through Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And so this is, like many years ago, and I would post a lot of art, just on Facebook, just to my personal page. I didn't have like a professional art page back then. And then some people would, I would get some feedback. Some people seem to really like it. And it's interesting because I remember like 7 years ago, um, I think it was October, so I was watching a lot of my favorite horror films, and I love vampire films. And
Uh-huh.
I remember I did this. It was kind of like this drawing of one of my favorite films, Blood for Dracula. And I mean, I don't think it was like an amazing drawing. It was just, it was done in black ink, and then the blood, I made that with, I think, red acrylic paint. So I just did a few series and I posted it to Facebook. And so I mean, I don't know, because I never asked David Gregory, but I'm thinking maybe he saw that, because I drew something from Blood for Dracula like 7 years ago. Maybe he
Uh-huh.
saw that and he liked that, and then that's why he commissioned me for many years later to do their Blu-ray release for Blood for Dracula. And so, because that's, so I think it was like 2 years ago. I think, yeah, it was like during the pandemic. So he initially contacted me for Nosferatu in Venice, starring Klaus Kinski.
Oh, yeah. Is that the other one you did?
Right, that's the other one I did.
Ah,
So
that's a
that was
great
the
cover as
first thing I
well.
did for them.
Okay.
And then not long after, he said, well, would you also do Blood for Dracula? And I had kind of forgotten about, that illustration I did many years ago. But in my mind, I thought maybe he saw that, and figured I'd be a good fit for these vampire films.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's really how it started. It was just posting my art online, and he saw it, and then he contacted me.
That's awesome. Well, there's a whole bunch of questions I have from that story, but just really quick before, so the similarity, I think Nosferatu in Venice, I'm just looking at it now because I remembered it and I wanted to make sure this was right. It has a
Mhm.
little bit more color to it, but it's
Yeah,
still a very muted kind of palette. I'm assuming you're talking about the slipcover or both.
right. Just the slipcover.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. That I, not that I can say I know your art, but now that you say that, I can kind of see it a little bit. That's super fascinating. So did he say like, I kind of want it just like the face or kind of like a profile, or did he just say, can you please do Nosferatu in Venice for me, watch the movie and just send me your ideas? Like, how did that process kind of go?
Right. So he sent me the film, and then he's told me, what do you think about it? And he told me kind of what he wanted. So he said, I want uh you to see like Klaus Kinski's crazy rat teeth and some blood dripping, and a gray background. So he gave me some direction with that. And then with the other one, Blood for Dracula, he said, yeah, he wanted it pretty minimal with like a white background. And then uh he sent me like this particular image of Udo Kier from the film,
Hmm. Hmm.
and he said, yeah, can you recreate that, in your own way? um and yeah, and I was really happy with that, because I tend to really love like minimal, like a minimal color palette and a white background. I just think it looks very striking.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that's how that came about.
Well, my favorite thing about the Blood for Dracula uh, I guess, image before we move on from this is, I'm a heterosexual man, but Udo Kier's eyes
Yeah.
are
They're
tempting,
gorgeous.
right? And like you captured that well, like they stand out. And that was something that jumped out to me from early on. It's like, oh, there's somebody else who appreciates his eyes.
Oh yeah, I remember. I think he has the most striking eyes I've ever seen, and I really wanted, like I knew if I did, this cover and the red blood was gonna stand out, obviously, but I also really made sure to make his eyes stand out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's well done, especially young Udo Kier. I'm looking it up. If I can't find this quickly, then we can move on. But there's a folk horror movie he did from the 70s. See if I can find it very quickly. It would have been Mark of the Devil.
Okay, I don't know. I
He's
haven't
quite
seen that one.
Yeah, he's quite young in it.
Oh,
And for somehow like they stand out even more. If it if well, since we're talking about Udo Kier's eyes, check out that. Um, if you have some time.
yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
so you went to school to be a a writer, a novelist.
Well, that's in my fantasy. That's what I
Yeah,
thought would
sure, sure,
happen.
sure.
Yeah,
But I mean, English major and film major kind of combined. I mean, that's
yeah.
who's the guy? I'm drawing a blank right now, but who's the guy who's very famous for being kind of like a noir screenwriter? He's
Is it Raymond Chandler?
Chandler. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Raymond
my
Chandler.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you still write then on the side a little bit?
Um, it's something I always wanted to go back to. I just focus on my art now.
Yeah.
But I feel like one day when the time is right, maybe I'll write something and then make illustrations and sort of combine my passions. That would be my ultimate dream.
Wow. That's great. Well, you heard it here first. If it happens, we get 10%.
Yeah, exactly.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Stony Brook University on Long
Stony Brook.
Island.
Okay, cool. So, are you kind of from like the New York area then?
Yeah, I was born in Maryland and then my
Okay,
family moved to Queens when I was very young. But I grew up on Long Island my whole life.
nice. And movies a big part of that. It's always kind of been a big part of your upbringing.
So I think when I was around, I mean, I've always liked movies, but I wasn't, like I didn't become a real movie fanatic till maybe I was like 16 years old, and I had just discovered, the world of novels, so I'd be in the library a lot,
Uh-huh.
and I can't remember the name of the book, but there was some film book, and I saw stills from Breathless. I saw stills from L'Eclisse,
Okay.
Antonioni's film.
Uh-huh.
And I remember thinking like, this is, I don't know what this is, but this is the most these are the most gorgeous images I've ever seen. And just based on the stills, I was like, what is this? So then I took out the DVDs from the library, and then I was just hooked ever since then. It was like those two films that started everything, I think.
Okay, so would you say then you sort of appreciate your entry point into film was through the visuals side of it then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It
Okay.
was through the stills and then, discovering the film posters later
Yeah,
on. I just thought, how can this be a bad film if the poster and the stills are so good?
right.
That was my thinking.
Well, it's funny because it's a lot of art house movies and then a lot of exploitation movies use that same principle, right? Of trying to
Right.
sell it based on the poster. It's just the style of art is maybe quite different, but it's a similar approach anyways.
Right.
Um, are you still, is that still kind of how you view or get excited about new movies? Are you very kind of influenced by the way the trailer looks and the way the posters look? Is that still a big part of it?
Yeah, I think even more than watching the trailer, I'm drawn by the poster. If the poster is amazing, I say I have to check this movie out. And it's the same with the book. If the book cover is super striking, I'm gonna read that next.
Well, that's an interesting tie-in then because you have done one poster at least, right? Um, for, or at least you've done I think it's a poster for Raisuke Hamaguchi, right? For
Right.
one of his, yeah. So is that, or was that for a book? No, it was a poster, right?
Oh, so for Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was so the same year he directed Drive My Car, which is, the more famous one. He also directed Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, and that had it premiered in North America during the 2021 New York Film Festival. And so uh, David Willens, he works for Film Movement. He saw my poster for so he saw my Blu-ray cover for Blood for Dracula, and he really liked it a lot. And so then he asked me, would I do the poster for Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy? And
Amazing.
so that was like the official I guess American poster, and it was used overseas as well. And in that's the poster that's also Film Movement's Blu-ray and DVD of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I had absolutely no clue like that would get so much attention. um and yeah, I mean, it was amazing because shortly after it was at the New York Film Festival, it premiered theatrically at Film Forum in Manhattan, and
Okay.
they had my posters plastered everywhere, and it was so surreal because that's one of my favorite movie theaters. and,
Amazing.
and so that was the first time I actually saw the poster on the walls at a movie theater. So that was an amazing moment.
Congratulations. And that was your first one? First poster?
Yes.
Wow. So it's like it kind of came full circle, like you're doing the thing that pulled you into film to begin with in a theater you loved, just kind of like all came into that magical moment. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
So without getting into specifics, because I'm sure there's a bunch of NDAs and stuff, but generally speaking, has that attention been good for you? Like, are you getting more commissions and more attention for doing some more work?
Yeah, I think so because I mean, I've only recently started going to more film festivals,
Mhm.
and just meeting filmmakers, and every time I tell them I did the poster for Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, their eyes kind of light up, and I feel like there's just so many Hamaguchi fans,
Yeah.
and if they only knew Drive My Car, they learn, oh, he did another film, and then they become very curious.
Yeah, sure.
And I feel like definitely that one, that and Blood for Dracula, that has gotten the most attention out of the posters and Blu-ray covers I've done.
Well, congratulations. And before I forget, I wanted to ask, because on your website, which is just elizabethyou.com, so anybody can please go there. It's got some bunch of good stuff. But you have a picture with Hamaguchi. So did you get to meet him? Did you get to spend some time with him?
Oh yeah, so that picture, so when he premiered his film at the New York Film Festival, so after the film, I thought, oh, it would be so cool to meet him and introduce myself, but he's probably like, backstage somewhere. I'm never gonna be able to meet him,
Mhm.
or he'll
Uh-huh.
be mobbed by a bunch of people. I have no clue. So after the movie, I was just walking to lunch at a restaurant, and I saw him like on the sidewalk. And
Okay.
it was like the most random thing. And then so I was like, am I seeing this correctly? So I ended up going up to him and introducing myself, and I told him I did the poster for his film, and he was super gracious. He was so nice, and he said how much he loved the poster I did. And then he also said, so the film is an anthology film about fate and coincidence, and he was telling me this is like a scene out of the movie because it's
Seriously.
like a coincidence that we should run into each other like that.
Especially when
Yes,
it's not in the venue. Yeah, that's amazing.
it was a very serendipitous moment, and I'm so grateful that it ended up happening like that.
Wow, that's great. I always like hearing that people are human behind the camera because you
Oh
never
yeah,
know for sure.
exactly.
Um, well, I know it's led, so your work has led to at least one more Blu-ray recently. So you were telling me that one of my recent covers that I was really drawn to was from Big World Pictures, which is an
Mhm.
OCN label, and their release of Distant, right?
Right.
Wow, so that's great. Did you work with Justin over there, or like which part of the OCN crew did you work with to get involved with that?
Um, so Justin La Liberty,
Uh-huh.
I think so he contacted me. It was like either Instagram or Twitter. He really liked my Blood for Dracula cover,
Hmm.
and so he said, "Would you be interested in doing something for for possibly Vinegar Syndrome?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely."
Uh-huh.
And then like July of 2021, yeah, he said, well, we're gonna release Distant, also known as Uzak, the Turkish title. He said, would you want to do the Blu-ray slipcover for that? So I said, yeah, absolutely. And so that's how that one came about. And that one was fun to do because the cover, it like wraps around. So it's this important moment in the film when one of the lead actors is looking at the the ocean and the ships going by, and
Hmm.
um so it kind of wraps around the cover, and that was a lot of fun to do.
I'm please explain like I'm five for my question that I'm about to ask because I don't have a strong background in art, although I
No
can
problem.
appreciate it. How did you choose the colors? Because the thing that struck me about
Yeah.
Distance was they're kind of blended together, but in a crazy way, they're also very unique and stand out. And there's like they create a mood, especially well, the front and the back, but yeah, the back when it's just the kind of the sky and then the water and the horizon, I guess it creates like a very specific mood. Is that an iterative process or kind of how did you do all that?
So he asked me to come up with a concept, and I had a few ideas in mind, but I really liked this one scene in the movie that ended up inspiring that cover. And so I use like during the pandemic, I discovered Japanese watercolor, which is very different than Western watercolors. I just find that the colors are more vibrant,
Yeah.
and so I'm not really used to doing landscapes and things like that. Like I love drawing faces and people. So this one, I did a lot of experimenting before illustrating that final cover. And so I really liked how colorful it was. And in my mind originally, I didn't think it was going to be that vibrant, because when I think of the film, I think of uh maybe more muted colors, and I think, yeah, of like the snow. um but I actually really like how it turned out, because even though he's in front of this beautiful sunset, you still get this feeling of loneliness and isolation. um so yeah, sometimes it ends up looking very different from my original plan for it. um but yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out.
It's great, and that's it's very striking. And Justin is we've had him on here before, and just in general, I think we've spoken to. I think there's 21 partner labels now, 22. We've probably spoken to at least 10 of them.
Oh wow.
I'm a big fan of what OCN's doing. Uh, they're a great company to be plugged in with. From what I understand, they're great people as well
Oh
as
yeah.
have created a good business model. So I hope you get a lot of extra work with them. Big World Pictures specifically, they have one of my favorite releases from any of the partner labels. Their first release was Rebels of the Neon God. Have you seen that by chance?
So I haven't seen the film, but I have seen that gorgeous cover for it.
It is a very, you're right. It's a
It,
beautiful
it's very
slipcover.
beautiful.
But the film is great. It's a little bit probably closer to slow cinema. I don't know, it's not fully there, but it's kind of going in that direction. But I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very good movie. Very, very. Like it's funny because you're talking earlier about like Severin and kind of liking some of the horror movies, and I mean, you didn't use the word schlocky, but that word is commonly used for Severin. And Vinegar Syndrome certainly got that reputation from what they were kind of in their early years. And so it always makes me smile when I can go on Vinegar Syndrome and buy stuff from like Altered Innocence and Big World Pictures and then Deaf Crocodile, and then go get, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 or something
Yeah,
that
right.
they're
Yeah.
putting it's like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know,
love
it
that.
feels, yeah, feels like I'm cheating somehow. What movies are you watching now? Like, are you into a particular genre? Do you like what are you watching nowadays?
Um, I what am I watching now? I've been revisiting a lot of the movies that I love. So a lot of film noir and French cinema, Italian cinema. Uh, like I'm revisiting Sam Fuller's films.
Nice.
Um, I mean, my dream has been to do a cover for one of his films.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm trying to think of like specific movies.
What is it
Um,
about, just while you're thinking, what is it about Sam Fuller that why are you call like, what is it you like about him since you called him out specifically? I love him, by the way, but I'm just curious, what do you like about
um,
his films?
I mean, maybe it's because of his background as he was a crime reporter in New York City,
Yeah,
and he was also a novelist. He really knows how to create such a vivid, memorable scene, especially like the opening scenes in his films.
yeah,
So I love, Underworld USA and Shock Corridor, House of Bamboo. So I've been revisiting a lot of them, and it's still just breathtaking. Shock Corridor. I mean, I could go on. Um, and yeah, I'm trying to revisit the films that mean a lot to me, but that I haven't seen in a really long time.
yeah.
Um, Another favorite director of mine is Jean-Pierre Melville,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, I mean, because yeah, I'm trying to watch newer films too, but I feel like I have to sometimes go back to my roots, like what I love the most, and it's just endlessly inspiring for me. Um,
Yeah, recently for one of the films that we were discussing on the podcast was The Samurai.
oh yeah, that's
Um,
one of my favorites.
it's so good. It was paired with the Jarmusch movie with Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, Ghost Dog.
Ghost Dog, thank you.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that one too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a fun episode. I think Le Cercle Rouge is probably one of my favorite movies.
That
Um,
one is my absolute favorite by him. It's probably in my top 10 favorite movies ever.
yeah, it's so
It's
good,
such a
right?
perfect heist movie, and I just
Yeah,
love how quiet it is, and it's just a masterpiece. It's so good.
yeah, yeah. Actually, this is making me want to see it because I kind of like you. I had a break. You mentioned you didn't pick up your brush for 10 years.
Right.
Um, I got really into film in college, and then like really into it. Started my DVD collection. This was back in 2000, kind of till 2006 or seven. Um, and then just stopped starting a family, trying to get work things off the ground for a variety of reasons. I mean, I still watch some movies, but essentially stopped. And then 2018, 19 kind of got back into it. I couldn't keep away from it.
Yeah.
So this is, Le Cercle Rouge is one of the ones that I saw the first time around. I've been kind of meaning to revisit it, but yeah, I remember loving it. And then it's funny you mentioned Sam Fuller. So once or twice a year, I try to do like a full, like everything a director did. I try to find it
Yeah.
and go through it. So right now I'm in the middle of or in the beginning really of a Kieślowski run, but one of the ones I have that I'm now complete on is Sam Fuller's stuff. So at some point next year I'll probably go through all of his movies. Um, just because, like you said, like just the first couple few that I saw, I was like, well, okay, love this guy. So let's go
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what else he's done.
exactly.
So that's great. And you kind of mentioned this, or you kind of alluded to this, but so you would like to be doing more of the classic Hollywood, kind of classic international cinema. Like you'd love to go in that direction with your art.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, before I was getting this work for movie posters and Blu-ray covers, I would say most of the art I was doing, it was inspired by film noir and old Hollywood. I did this whole series inspired by Hitchcock's Blondes, and
Right.
so Tippi Hedren, Kim Novak, um, and I mean, he's my one of my favorites, Hitchcock, and and I just loved drawing the details on the dresses. Edith Head's work in those films is incredible. Um, and yeah, I mean, I that's my favorite thing in the world is just
Wow,
the
these are
glamour of old Hollywood. I would love to do something with, like a Marlene Dietrich film or Greta Garbo or Veronica Lake or yeah, that's my absolute dream.
these are very good. I'm just scrolling through while you're talking. I'm down to Madeline Carroll, that secret agent. You capture the fear in her face well. Um, I've heard in different conversations with artists in the past, I've heard that hands are always like the hardest thing to draw. Do you have a hardest thing to draw?
I definitely don't love drawing hands.
Okay.
There are certain things I find kind of tedious, and hands is definitely one of them. But the most fun for me is drawing the eyes or the face.
Ah,
And I know for some other artists that they say that's the hardest thing. Um, but yeah, that's my favorite. But yeah, like everything else, like the hands or I'm trying to think what else.
yeah, I
Um,
think
the
just because
hands,
you
the
mentioned
feet, it's just not as fun.
they're not as expressive, I guess, right?
Yeah.
The Tippi Hedren one for the birds is, I think, my favorite. I'm just scrolling through.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
that is fantastic. Really good art. Well, great. I mean, so, do you have do you see your career going towards illustrating for comic books, or do you want to kind of stay in like posters and Blu-ray? Like, do you have a specific vision for kind of where you want your career to go as you get more choice and influence?
Um, I would love to do more book covers, editorial, murals. Like I'm interested in everything, but my absolute passion is still movies. So I would love to continue to do movie posters and Blu-ray covers, and I would love to work, with Vinegar Syndrome and Deaf Crocodile and Criterion. I mean, the list goes on. It's just always so fun for me to discover, new movies and to sort of try to capture the essence of it in a single image. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's what I would love to do, to just keep doing movie posters.
Oh, that's great. Well, that was kind of my last question. So I'm glad you opened that door. To me, again, kind of on the outside here, I think um, what you do is terrifying to me because not only because I'm a terrible artist, but essentially what you're trying to do is like bring out the soul of the movie into a single image,
Right.
right? And that is such an amazing skill, but and one that really helps sell a movie, by the way. And we've kind of touched on it lightly, but I think nowadays, especially with the slipcover craze that's kind of happening right
Yeah.
now, people really get excited by a beautiful slipcover. So, would you say that the final image that you end up with? Would you say that's more of a like a logical, kind of exercise to get there, or more of an emotional exercise to see like what image impacts you the most as you're watching a film, or like how does that kind of go for you to be able to actually just land on something and make it?
Um, so for example, for the Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy poster I did, so that has three stories. It's an anthology film. And I remember thinking, okay, what am I going to do for this poster? Am I going to include all the main characters from all three stories? And then I thought to myself, you see so many posters where there's a ton of people, like every cast member in the poster.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them can look fine, but I think I tend to be drawn to more minimal posters. And so I thought, well, what's my favorite episode of this film? And
Mm.
for me, it was the last one. And so there's this moment early in the third part of the film where these two women are at the train station in Tokyo. And so, one is going down the escalator and one is going the other way. And then it just clicked for me. I thought that would be an amazing image to put as the poster, because for me that represents those themes that are in the movie, with like memory and coincidence, a chance encounter. And and then yeah, and then so I just started sketching out ideas, and I really connected most with that story. And then later on, when that poster came out, a lot of people would tell me on social media, oh, that was my favorite episode in the film, and that's my favorite moment in that whole film. And so I was really glad that I chose a moment that resonated with so many people. Um and yeah, so that's, I guess, for that it was definitely, I was thinking about the emotional aspect of that film and what connected most to me, while also including those two main characters from that episode. Even though one of the characters, you only see the back of her head, but I
Yeah.
really liked that. And then the other one, you see her face but she's more in the distance.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me a little bit of the elevator scene in Chungking Express.
Oh
Not,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's different in Chungking because it's mostly a one-way elevator coming by the house. But I don't think it's incredibly common to see elevators used as part of the story in film. So that was just kind of the first place my mind went to when I saw that. Um, but I take it back. I have a new favorite print. It's Jean Moreau and Cat.
Oh yeah, a lot of people really like that one.
Yeah, I was just going through the ones that you have on your shop on your website. That one is awesome. Um, yeah. So, anyways, I like the way that you laid out the story. I don't want to jump around too much. I like the way that you laid out the story of how you got there. I was just trying to think of just a film that we both like. So we've been talking about Fuller. I was just trying to think of Shot Corridor a little bit. I think there's certain scenes in there, like if you're trying to capture like a minimalist type of image, right? I'm trying to think of like there's certain moments where he kind of goes through this transformation, right? Where like we in the audience aren't sure whether he's going, like if he's truly losing his mind or if he's acting. And at some point, it becomes apparent that that slip has kind of happened. But there's a chunk in the middle of the movie where it's just you're still kind of like, well, I don't know, maybe he's just kind of into it. It's harder to tell. I feel like there's a couple scenes where he's in that psychiatrist office or the head of the ward's office, um, where his eyes are doing a lot of acting that I think could be really good there. I was trying to think if that's is it something like is that kind of your thought process as you go through the trying to figure out what you would do?
um Wait, sorry,
Th-
can you
Does,
just repeat your question?
yeah, 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 like kind of how I just talked that out and got to like that. There's a moment for me there where like you're not quite sure if he's lost his sanity yet or
Right,
not,
right.
right? And it's like you kind of in his eyes are doing a lot of acting in that moment. And I was thinking of, okay, maybe there's like a way to that's something that could be captured there as far as telling the story of like you're not really sure what's going on, but you can see something in his eyes has like changed. Um, would it be something like is that kind of the way that you would start to think and kind of deconstruct like a particular moment to pull out and start to draw it?
Yeah, I mean, when I watch a movie, I definitely take note of like what are the shots in this film that I just can't stop thinking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I try to try to incorporate that into my ideas. Um and yeah, I mean, I mean, pretty much that's what I do. I'll just rewatch a movie a few times and just choose like a couple, like a few moments, not overwhelm myself with, I love 20 different scenes. Just pick a few that really that I think are really important to the story for sure.
That's cool. Well, obviously I have, 100 different questions in different directions, but I think for me, this is exactly what I wanted to cover. And I think it's a really great introduction to you and how much you just have a passion for film uh, and kind of your path to get there. So I really appreciate you taking the time out. Is there anything that I didn't cover today that you would want people to make sure they knew about you?
I would say just if you want to commission me for something, whether that's a movie poster or a private commission, feel free to email me. Or, just go to my website, elizabethyou.com. I'm currently setting up a new shop, and so it'll be a lot of my art prints. So that should be up within a few weeks.
Okay,
And that'll just be on my website. Um, so yeah, I mean, feel free to contact me if you want to talk about movies, whatever you want. Um, and if you want to follow me on social media, so Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd is all Lejaznik, Lejaznik, and then my Facebook page is just Elizabeth Yoo Art. So every time I have like new art or a new movie poster, Blu-ray release, that's the first place I usually post it.
nice.
Um, and yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Great. I'm glad you had a good time. Once you start becoming a regular in Vinegar Syndrome, if you have time, unless you're too busy, you can come back in a year or two and just kind of check in and see how it's going.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to.
Awesome. Okay. Well, Elizabeth, thanks so much. And yeah, I'll see you online.
Yeah, thank you so much.